let's go straight to the topic of the day. We'll be talking about the state of remittance in Africa. Mr. Farouk, Africa seems to have high volume of remittance. What would you say is the cause?
Well, Africa is quite challenged in terms of income. Families are pretty much challenged, and there's a high income gap, and remittance is one that most Africans fall on. Most Africans migrate to various jurisdictions, and it's also important that they care about family back home, and this is why the remittance ratio in Africa is quite high. In 2019, we saw that remittance from elsewhere to Africa was hovering around $48 billion. Due to COVID, it drastically reduced to around $37 billion, and that is quite a significant amount. This money that comes to Africa is able to meet quite a lot of family demands in terms of healthcare, education, and also, generally trying to help Africans to get by. So there's a heavy reliance on remittance because of our dispensation as a challenged continent. So it's understandable.
Okay, thank you very much. The high demand makes it understandable. So that leads us to the second question of the day, where we're talking about with the high volume it records in remittance and some inefficiencies and struggle faced, what are some of the ways out? The way out?
Well, I mean, it's one concern about remittance is access. I mean, you realize that some areas in Africa is quite challenging in terms of access to roads and to places where money is sent. Families have to trek long distances. Technology is one solution that has come to meet that, to be able to solve that problem. So you realize that people have embraced technology. Typically, Kenya is one country that has significantly maximized the importance of technology. So I say yes, technology is one of it. Infrastructure is also one of it. And people generally embracing what technology offers. So typically, if a family is found somewhere in a remote area, through their mobile phones, technology makes it possible for somebody in the USA to be able to send money onto their wallet. So it defeats the purpose of having to trek long distance, to go and, take the money from these collection centers. So technology, I would squarely put it on technology. Technology is one that will be able to solve that problem.
Okay, thank you very much. So we'll be going for a quick break. We'll be back. Welcome back. Talking about CBDC in Ghana. Can you give estimates? Can we have CBDC, digital currency of Ghana, this year?
Well, it's a bit over-ambitious. I mean, one thing I appreciate about our central bank and regulators is the meticulous way they go about, embracing these things. It's going to take some time. It's reasonable to give ourselves some time to fully, understand the process, and also try to assess its impact in other countries. What are the outcomes? What are the challenges? So we're able to, avoid some of these pitfalls. Anything that is new brings some sort of, edge, nervousness from, people who are going to, as is may, be the beneficiaries of this new technology. So like I said, there's a lot of stakeholder engagement. It's a relatively new terrain, and collaboration and cohesion is what is needed to be able to advance whatever we want to see in, blockchain, crypto. And so I'm quite upbeat about it. I have absolute confidence in all the stakeholders in this country, and I'm sure we'll see some very, very impactful, Fintech or financial technology in the country.
Thank you very much. And one more question before you go. Blockchain has been the buzzword over blockchain and cryptocurrency. And do you think blockchain have come to disrupt financial sector, or has it come to catalyze? Can you tell more about the blockchain and the fintech?
Well, blockchain, I mean, what we tend to appreciate about blockchain is it allows for traceability. I mean, so anything that comes with that, component of traceability would definitely impact what we're doing in fintech. It's not here to disrupt fintech, it's rather here to complement what fintech does. So it's one that players in the fintech space have embraced, and most fintech organizations are also positioning themselves, trying to have an extension of what they do in that space of technology, using technology to solve financial problems. But blockchain, like I said, is here to complement what's already been achieved in the fintech space. It's not here to disrupt, it's rather here to complement and then pretty much leapfrog whatever gains has been made in that space.
Thank you very much. Before we drop the curtain of today's interview with Mr. Farouk Kalan, who is the CEO of Premium African Holdings and the Senior Vice President, EasyPay Africa. What's your closing remark?
Well, in closing, I would like to, encourage Africans to we're in industrialization 4.0. We're in the Internet of Things. Technology is being used to solve most of our problems, and it's in our own interest to embrace technology. We're a challenged economy. Technology allows us to be able to, move at a faster pace in catching up with, global developed economies, and we shouldn't be scared about technology. Is here to stay. The earlier we embrace it and participate, in using technology, it's in our own interest. So I encourage governments to also work closely with stakeholders in the fintech space and even blockchain. It looks like the players in the space are ahead of some governments. It will take collaboration, calling people to the table and engaging more, having a formidable front to maximize the impact of technology in the way we do things, particularly in the finance space.
Thank you very much. You say we should join the blockchain sector. We should involve ourselves, the government, also to come for collaboration with companies in financial sector and the blockchain to make this a reality. Thank you very much. We really appreciate your time. Stay tuned.
Ecosystem is saturated with a lot of trending stories and events, from blockchain to fintech and even cryptocurrency. However, there is the need to get viewers updated on the happenings in the ecosystem. So join us on this platform for crypto updates, Mondays to Saturdays by 2 p.m. West African time on CNETv, to get analysis as regards trending stories from several media outlets, from Cointelegraph to Coins Extra, Crypto Globe, and more. Crypto Daily, the program depicting the ecosystem. Ecosystem is saturated with a lot of trending stories and events, from blockchain to fintech and even cryptocurrency. However, there is the need to get viewers updated on the happenings in the ecosystem. So join us on this platform for crypto updates, Mondays to Saturdays by 2 p.m. West African time on CNETv, to get analysis as regards trending stories from several media outlets, from Cointelegraph to Coins Extra, Crypto Globe, and more. Crypto Daily, the program depicting the ecosystem.
day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to yet another episode of CNETv Interview Session, a program where we invite innovators, stakeholders, influencers in the blockchain, crypto, and fintech ecosystem to come discuss about the state of the ecosystem. So today, we'll be talking about an amazing topic, global fintech adoption. What stage are we? Let's look at the stage of fintech adoption across the globe. So I have with me a fintech expert who will be joining us to discuss about this interesting topic in the person of Raf De Kimpe, who is joining us from London. He is the CEO, Fintech Week London. Raf, you're welcome to CNETv.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you for having me. And thank you for that very kind introduction. I wouldn't call myself a fintech expert, but I'll do my best.
At least you have interest, you have experience in that area. And thank you very much for bringing out time to join us today. So how is London today?
Very well, very good. I think everybody's on holiday, so it's quite calm and relaxed, except for me, of course. No, it's a typical British weather, but everybody's outside of London anyway.
That's a very nice one. I'm so grateful the weather is cooperating over there, and it's a sunny day for us here in Lagos State, Nigeria. So let me, before I proceed to the topic, just briefly, I would like to get your background and your experience, Raf.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. So I started in fintech a while ago. I'm originally Belgian and started in Brussels with running a fintech ecosystem that was a combination of banks and fintech companies. Gathered some experience there. And then actually moved to London when the initiative came this year to start Fintech Week London anew, because there was something in the past, but it kind of fizzled out. And with a new team and new partners, we started Fintech Week London this year, bringing together over 1,000 people online and 450 people in person in London in the week of the 12th to the 16th of July.
Interesting, and I must say, congratulations to you on the success of the Fintech Week. I must say it was a huge one there.
Yeah, thank you so much. We're proud ourselves as well. I think it went even better than we could have imagined for this first version together with the team. I think everybody in the team, but also all the speakers and even the participants, were very keen on being together again, even if it was partly physical, partly virtual, because we did a hybrid version, of course, given the extension of the COVID restrictions here in the UK. But it was definitely something that we're proud of and that we want to build on for the next coming years.
That's very nice. So let's dive proper into the interview, global fintech adoption. What stage are we? What are some of the impact and importance of fintech sector? Before we talk about what stage are we with the adoption, what are some of the importance of fintech globally?
Yeah, but I think if you look on a global scale, it's very hard to answer this with one impact or one importance, except for, of course, the obvious, which is the pandemic. Even though everybody is kind of tired of talking about it, I think it has been a huge impact on the fintech sector globally. You can see a rapid digitization, and I think the year that we've had brought us maybe 3 to 5 years further than we actually would have been normally, because there was no other option. People had to get access to their finances. People had to get access to what they needed from their banks or their fintech companies in a digital way, without being able to physically go to their bank, without being able to do things in cash. So I think the pandemic has been the biggest impact on the fintech sector globally. I think if you look at different regions, in the UK, for instance, I think an important factor at the moment is trust. The UK is a good example because we have the FCA, where they built a sandbox to actually test in conjunction with the fintech companies. So fintech companies can do their tests together with the regulators, which creates a level of trust in the fintech sector that isn't found everywhere around the world. And looking at the way the fintech sector in the UK reacted also to the pandemic, for instance, which was a topic at Fintech Week London as well. If you look at Starling Bank, they made a connected card that you could top up and give to somebody who has to go and do groceries for you. So it shows again the incredible power of the fintech sector to actually react to the changing need and the changing playing field and what their customers actually want. So I think important at this point is to look at the next step in the fintech sector, coming from what was supposed to be something super disruptive and looked at a bit with weary eyes, let's say, that we're now getting into a situation where it is more common, more trusted, and where there's actually regulators getting involved, taking it to that next level.
Interesting one there from you, Ralph. Let's look at, we've been able to talk about the importance of our fintech globally. What are some of the challenges you think that are facing our fintech adoption? What do you think is, if it is not what is facing it, what are some of the things that are slowing it down when it comes to adoption of fintech globally?
But I think it kind of depends on how you look at it. I think for the moment there are a lot more opportunities than that there are challenges, which is not to be said that there are no challenges anymore, of course. But I think especially again, because of the pandemic, a lot of the challenges were circumvented at the speed with which fintech is growing and being adopted by everybody around the world. I think it's actually going a lot faster than we would have imagined. However, what you can see is that still there is a bit of a public perception in some regions that fintech is unsafe because it's not a bank. In some regions, even if you look at unbanked people, they don't even trust the bank. It's their money, and why would they give it away to somebody to do something with it? So the next step, of course, is if you already don't trust the bank, let alone that you will trust a crazy fintech company that comes out of nothing and has it all digitally and doesn't have these tens of hundreds of years of experience. But again, like I said earlier, if the regulators get involved, look at it and collaborate, I think that works. The biggest challenge for me in fintech adoption globally is still, of course, cash. I think cash will be king still in a lot of the world. It's culturally defined. And I think as long as people have trust issues, cash will still be used in a lot of countries. One of the reactions of governments has been, for instance, the digital dollar. If you look at what President Biden did in the US, if you look at Sweden, where we have SEBEX, who set up a separate entity to respond to changing questions of their customers called SEB. So I think it's going quickly, and there is good adoption, but I think there's still room for change. I think if you look at the Middle East and Africa, which you're the experts in and not me, but we see a lot of fintech that is payment dominated. And as long as payments are important, and as long as we're talking about cash versus digital money, there is still a challenge there, I think.
Okay, interesting. In case you are just joining us, this is CNETv interview session, and we are talking about global fintech adoption. What stage are we? And with an amazing guest here, Ralph De Kempe, who is the CEO of Fintech Week London. So we'll go for a short break. When we return, we'll continue with the interview. We'll be right back.
CNETv, the first and leading 24/7 live broadcasting blockchain, cryptocurrency, and fintech TV application. On our mobile app, you have access to our latest news updates ranging from esports, fintech, iGaming, blockchain, cryptocurrency, and artificial intelligence. We bring to you interviews, analyses, cryptocurrencies, market reviews, and live events. Download our app today from your iOS or Google Play Store or on our website at cnetv.io. CNETv, objectivity is our watchword.
Okay, welcome back to the show. It's still the CNETv interview session. So today we're talking about global fintech adoption. What stage are we? So we have a guest who's helping us discuss about this topic. So my next question here is, what stage are we in the fintech adoption, Raf?
That's a very, very good question. I think to answer it, it depends on where you are in the world. I think fintech adoption is very different in countries where you have a lot of early adopters versus countries that have still a lot of unbanked people even. Although you could even make a case and argue that people who don't have a bank will make the step to fintech quicker than people who have been with their same traditional bank for years. I think whereas fintech used to be very disruptive and sort of in their toddler years, let's say, my general idea is that fintech is currently in a sort of coming of age stage, especially if you look at the adoption. Consumer adoption has gone up again, sped up by the pandemic. There is still a long way to go. I think maybe if you had to compare it with a child growing up, it's best to compare it to the kind of coming of age. Working together more than that they are disrupting, trying to find a way forward in negotiations and in collaboration, which is actually what we at Fintech Week London call co-opetition. So it's not exactly competition, it's not exactly collaboration, but it is something in between, which makes that a lot of the audience and consumers are making the step to that fintech ecosystem to use fintech apps either for transferring money to other countries, for their own financial management, to get insights. And as well as you look at the landscape where you have a huge amount of mergers and acquisitions that are going on, both fintechs taking over other fintechs, banks taking over fintechs, I think there's sort of a consolidation happening of the landscape. And with that will follow a huge push for the adoption of fintech by the general audience as well. And I think we will move, as we come of age, we will move more towards what's really important, which is sustainable finance, which is looking at green finance, which is using the digital for good more than just as because it is cool and because it is new. I think there's actually a reason behind it now, and there's thought behind it, and there's conscience being built. So I'm very excited about the stage fintech is currently in.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me look at, we've been talking about global fintech adoption, what stage are we? So what impact are you making? What contributions are you making in the ecosystem towards fintech adoption?
Well, I think if you look at an event and a community like Fintech Week London, the main reason we're doing it in London, of course, is because London is still one of the biggest fintech capitals of the world. If you looked at the opening statements done at our event, there's $5.3 billion VC investment in London so far this year. That's huge. There's been over 2018 fintech companies headquartered in London. So I think London is playing a big role, but we don't have to make this the London is so amazing and that's the only place in the world show. I think we're playing a role of where we were a front runner, now moving into that more regulatory space as well. I think there's a good entrepreneurial vibe and there's talent, but it isn't the center of the world. There is a lot happening. There's a lot of big tech players that have a huge platform. If you look at the Google, if you look at Facebook, if you look at Amazon, in comparison to a bank that is very local most of the time, that has a very local market, very regional market, these big tech players are really opening up the field. And I think London and the UK in the wider sense is playing a role in looking at collaborating versus competing with these people. I think in regulatory and open banking, London is playing an exemplary role of making sure that the public doesn't worry too much about all these technical details and the regulations that have to be there, but can actually benefit from what's happening there. A good example there is if you look at Tink and Visa collaborating, if you look at Starling Bank, where Anne Boden came from banking, and she wasn't. She went on her own actually, and they recently invested a lot in fleet mortgages. This is all examples of how fintech is moving into that next stage, and how London is an example of what is happening globally.
Interesting. Before we draw the curtain on today's episode of CNETv interview, I would like to get your opinion about blockchain technology and its integration in the fintech ecosystem. Some people think blockchain is different and it's not part of fintech. So what's your opinion around that?
I think blockchain is definitely a part of fintech. I think it's not only a part of fintech. I think blockchain is a lot wider than only fintech, but fintech definitely is being impacted, and I think in a good way. I think if you would have asked me this a few years ago, I might have been more skeptical. I'm also not a subject matter expert, but if you look at originally where blockchain was always said in the same sentence as crypto, was always the same. Blockchain and crypto went hand in hand. And I think we're now moving beyond the hype and moving at the part where we can see that blockchain has real value, but that value isn't only or isn't mainly in cryptocurrencies. The question is also, what is blockchain and what is it? How big can it get? A very nice example of that is NFTs. That speaks very much to how fintech always tries to react to what a need is in the market. And especially now, people are living more in this virtual world and they want to take more of this virtual world to other worlds and keep the value of that. So with blockchain, the fintech sector together found a solution to that using those NFTs and then seeing, oh, we can apply this to different fields. Actually, we can do this in actual fields like art. We can do this in abstract fields like, for instance, with shares, or we can go fully virtual like they do in gaming. So I think there's a big integration happening of, maybe let's call it the real blockchain in fintech, and people are building on it. If you look at smart contracts, if you look at the government's role, the way innovation often in the UK, for instance, is now also driven by regulators, where they look at, we used to be all separate parts, but now we kind of need to combine this because blockchain needs us to regulate on a multi-dimensional level. I think there is a big integration exercise happening around the world. And I think the fact that the regulators are getting involved is growing the trust of the audience as well. So I think within this and a few years, there will be a lot of integration, if not one word being fintech is blockchain and blockchain is fintech. However, I think the general audience really doesn't care so much at this point about the technology behind something. If you compare it to the cloud, a few years ago, everybody was speaking about the cloud and the cloud was the new thing and everybody had to know what the cloud is. Now everybody uses Google, everybody uses Amazon, and nobody even cares that it was the cloud that's behind it. I think the same will happen with blockchain. It will go into a conversation of the actual use of blockchain, and people will start using it and using the products on blockchain a lot more than at that point still wondering what the technology behind it is.
Thank you very much. It has really been an amazing session with you, Ralph De Kimpe, CEO, Fintech Week London, where we talked about global fintech adoption. What stage are we? Thank you very much, Ralph, for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a nice day.
It's our pleasure. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye.
CNETv, the first and leading 24/7 live broadcasting blockchain, cryptocurrency, and Fintech TV application. On our mobile app, you have access to our latest news updates ranging from esports, fintech, iGaming, blockchain, cryptocurrency, and artificial intelligence. We bring to you interviews, analyses, cryptocurrencies, market reviews, and live events. Download our app today from your iOS or Google Play Store or on our website at cnetv.io. CNETv, objectivity is our watchword.